Okay, so imagine this. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway that carries nearly a fifth of the world's oil, is now a battleground. That's where today's top story begins.
And it's not just about oil, it's about escalating tensions, global markets, and the human cost of conflict. Let's get into it.
Welcome to DeActa Daily Digest. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Juniper. Here are today's top stories.
The US-Iran conflict has reached a boiling point with missile exchanges, naval blockades, and civilian casualties dominating the headlines. This isn't just a regional issue anymore. It's a global crisis.
Absolutely. The U.S. has ramped up its strikes, targeting Iranian Revolutionary Guard facilities, missile storage sites, and even infrastructure like bridges and power plants. Meanwhile, Iran has retaliated with missile launches toward Jordan and other U.S.-aligned states in the Gulf. What's the latest on the human toll?
It's devastating. The US has reported 17 service members killed since the conflict began, including one who died recently while handling a downed Iranian drone. On the Iranian side, authorities claim at least 50 dead and over 500 wounded from recent US strikes. And then there are the civilians. Disruptions to fuel and goods markets are already hitting vulnerable populations worldwide.
And the Strait of Hormuz is at the center of it all. The U.S. has reinstated a naval blockade on some Iranian ports to stop crude oil shipments. Vessel traffic has dropped dramatically, from nearly 140 transits a day in peacetime to just a handful now. That's a massive economic chokehold.
It really is. And it's not just about economics. The blockade, coupled with airstrikes on infrastructure, is putting civilian lives at risk. Iran has accused the US of targeting civilian infrastructure, which is ordinarily protected under international law unless it's being used for military purposes. The legal and ethical lines here are incredibly blurry.
And Iran's response has been just as aggressive. They've concentrated many of their strikes on U.S.-aligned Arab states rather than directly targeting Israel, even though Israel has been a key player alongside the U.S. in this conflict. It's a strategic choice, but it's also a dangerous one.
And let's not forget the political fallout. President Trump's handling of the situation has been polarizing. A recent poll found that 67% of Americans believe his military measures have harmed the U.S., particularly by driving up oil prices. That's a significant majority.
It is, and it raises questions about the administration's long-term strategy, or lack thereof. Trump's rhetoric has been forceful, but many are questioning whether there's a clear plan for managing this conflict. Without one, the risks of further escalation are enormous.
It's a grim situation, no doubt. But let's shift gears and talk about the FIFA-UEFA standoff. This is a completely different kind of conflict, but one that could have far-reaching implications for the world of sports.
UEFA has essentially drawn a line in the sand, vowing to boycott all FIFA-run competitions if plans to sell ownership stakes in the World Cup to private investors aren't dropped. That's a bold move, and it underscores just how contentious this proposal is.
The proposal itself is pretty controversial. FIFA wants to create a commercial entity called FIFA Forward Enterprises, offering up to 21% of it to outside investors. The goal? To raise $4.2 billion to support football development worldwide. But UEFA sees this as a fundamental threat to the integrity of the sport.
And they're not alone. CONCACAF, the Asian Confederation, and even individual figures like former FIFA president Sepp Blatter have criticized the idea. The main concern is that private ownership would prioritize financial returns over the best interests of the game. It's a classic clash between commerce and tradition.
UEFA's statement was particularly scathing. They called the World Cup a sporting legacy that should not be treated as an investment product. They also criticized the way FIFA revealed the proposal, first through media leaks and then via an official release. It's clear that trust between these organizations is at an all-time low.
And that's a big problem, especially with major tournaments on the horizon. The Women's World Cup in Brazil next summer and the Men's World Cup in 2030 are both at stake. If UEFA follows through on its boycott threat, the impact on these events would be catastrophic.
It's hard to imagine a World Cup without European teams. They're some of the biggest draws for fans and sponsors alike, but UEFA seems willing to take that risk to protect what they see as the integrity of the sport.
It's a high-stakes gamble, for sure. And it's not just about the World Cup. This conflict could reshape the entire governance structure of international football. If FIFA pushes ahead with its plans, we could see a fractured landscape where different confederations go their own way.
That's a bleak prospect, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Let's move on to our final story, which is perhaps the most heartbreaking of all. The U.S. strikes on Qeshm Island in Iran have resulted in civilian casualties, including children. What's the latest there?
Iranian media reported that a U.S. strike on a residential building in Qeshm City killed 3 members of a single family, including a 2-year-old child. 2 other children were injured. It's a tragic reminder of the human cost of this conflict.
And this isn't an isolated incident. Since the conflict began, at least 254 children have reportedly been killed in Iran, with over 1,700 civilian deaths overall. These are staggering numbers, and they highlight the devastating impact of war on the most vulnerable.
What's particularly troubling is the lack of accountability. CENTCOM described these operations as targeting IRGC sites, but they didn't explain why residential areas were struck. The Pentagon has launched probes into similar incidents in the past, but the findings are often not made public.
That lack of transparency is deeply concerning. It makes it harder to hold anyone accountable and erodes trust in the institutions that are supposed to protect civilians during conflict.
And while the focus is often on the military and geopolitical aspects, we can't lose sight of the human stories. These are families, children, people just trying to live their lives. War reduces them to statistics, but we have to remember their humanity.
Well said. It's a somber note to end on, but one that's important to acknowledge. These stories, whether they're about war, sports governance, or anything else, are ultimately about people. And that's what we have to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Let's hope for better days ahead for everyone involved.